Results across the resource sector in recent months have been pretty awful, and we saw the big numbers out of Anglo American, of course, BHP Billiton, most mining companies cutting back quite aggressively. First half results from Northam Platinum show a drop in profits, but the company remains profitable, which is decent value as well. The third largest miner of platinum by market value, Northam Platinum, it couldn't have come as a shock to the market. The excess of metal supply, poor macroeconomic conditions in the world's key economies like China have dented many commodity producers. This is the MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by the Northam Platinum Chief Executive Paul Dunne as we look at results from Northam Platinum. It's a horrible time to be a mining company chief executive, or not?
It's a pretty tough time. We've had times like this in the past, but this one is pretty deep. And it has been quite protracted. Now,
you've got the advantage of a weak currency. Probably the weak currency has saved you, courtesy you've got platinum at, say, $950 an ounce or thereabouts. The PGM basket at a fraction of what it was at the peak. But the rand has helped a lot, surely.
Yeah, the rand always helps a company like ours because we're effectively leveraged to a devaluing rand. However, remember, the dollar price of our metals has dropped in excess of 30% over the last 12 months. So yes, the rand has helped, but that's not the answer. We can't rely on the rand.
No, especially if you start seeing a retracement in the rand, yes. And there's a lot of stuff happening in politics right now. The ratings agencies seem calmed by the budget speech, the recent budget speech. So there's a very good chance that the rand could actually strengthen from here, which then raises the question about the prospects for mining platinum in a stronger rand environment. That's got to be quite hairy.
I agree. In fact, our planning implies or imputes a stronger rand from here.
What you working?
15 we think is a reasonable number for the next 12 months.
What if it goes to 13?
Well, it will make life very, very difficult for all miners. We are effectively in a relative play. The only way we can compete is on the cost curve.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased to say Northam is in a very competitive position with respect to our peers.
How many shafts are you mining?
We've got 2 shafts at Northam, 1 shaft and 2 shafts, very imaginative.
Yeah, good names, good names.
Well,
yes.
thanks.
At least you never get lost.
Yeah, I agree. And then at Boisendal on the east, we've got Boisendal North Mine, which has a shaft infrastructure. We've just purchased last year, if you remember, the Everest South Mine, which we've now renamed Boisendal South.
Excellent. So now you've got your directions and your numbers sorted out. In terms of your ability to mine those cost effectively, I mean, are they high-yielding, lower-cost production facilities? If you look at the old, for example, the old Anglo Platinum mines that they're getting rid of to Sibanye probably in the next while, they became pretty expensive to mine.
Well, if I can perhaps go through each one of them. As on the end of the operating cost in the period gone that we've just reported on, is just under 18,000 rand per platinum ounce, and the revenue received was 21,000 rand per platinum ounce. So still profitable in the bottom of the market. Not a bad place to be. On Boisendal, the average cost per platinum ounce was just under 15,000 rand per platinum ounce. So that's a mechanized shallow ore body. Yeah. It's a bit more competitive.
Okay, so the mechanization is the way. I mean, it's got to be the way. Open cast mines also far more cost effective in terms of running those.
Yeah, we believe at Northam that we need to diversify our production base into shallow, mechanized ore bodies. Of course, Boisendal is a 100 million ounce ore body. The current capital footprint that we've just commissioned only represents 5% of that ore body.
Okay, so I mean, there's lots of potential there, but how many of those similar ore bodies exist in this country?
Yeah, there are actually very few, and those that are there, they're quite tightly held, in fact.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there an opportunity? Do you see yourself as an opportunity to participate in the consolidation we're seeing in the platinum sector now? Anglo Platinum looking to offload some mines. There's some mothballing of shafts that's happening across some of the miners. Where do you participate there? Yeah,
we do see ourselves participating, but we will not compromise our strategy. Diversify into shallow mechanized ore bodies. Okay. So we're interested in areas contiguous to our current operations.
All right. That's mining speak, contiguous. It's
next door.
I know. Big word. Big word in mining. So first half was tough. Second half is not going to get much easier, and especially if we see this strengthening of the currency.
Yeah, I would accept that. Our plans, as I say, expect flat prices from here, in fact, through to the next 1 or 2 years.
Why? I mean, it was a point made by Mark Kidifani at the mining in Durban, saying the mining industry's only got itself to blame. It's continued to produce helter-skelter into a declining price environment, and he's there, I think, referring particularly about the iron ore producers, the low-cost Australian iron ore producers themselves. But surely there would be an opportunity, considering that we have 80% of the world's platinum resources right here, to perhaps do an OPEC on platinum.
We think, in fact, that South African primary production is in decline. We peaked at 5 million ounces primary production way back in 2006, and since then it's been a gradual but consistent decline. We're lucky if we produce from underground 4 million ounces in today's terms. That decline will continue. We say that very clearly because the ore bodies are old. You can't mine the same ground forever.
But platinum has also got the problem, though, of the recycling of platinum is so effective that it actually undermines those digging the raw materials out the ground.
Yeah, at this current price, by the way, even recycling is underwater.
Okay,
so that has declined.
So a huge amount of pressure then to be brought on there. And then in the broader context of the mining environment, the MPRDA, we had the mines minister saying, I believe in regulatory certainty, just as the previous mines minister did and the mines minister before that. How do you feel about the regulatory environment in which you're operating? It's got to be a bit of a nightmare.
I think the new mining charter is quite important. The old one came to its term in December 14. We are expecting the new charter to be out the second quarter this calendar year. It will definitely, in our view, focus on ownership and living conditions.
You've just done a big BE deal yourselves.
Yes.
You've taken a big cost on that BE deal. Will that see you through the new charter?
It will see us through for the next 10 years, and it gives us 31.4% equity, which is in excess of the previous charter. Of course, that benchmark was 26%. We think we're well positioned. Okay,
so you're well positioned for the new charter, but at the same time, if the goalposts keep moving, can anybody really ever have faith in the South African mining industry? When you invest, you're investing with a 20 or 30-year horizon, and probably the resources sector has been one of the most fluid in terms of regulatory uncertainty.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. However, having said that, we believe we have got enough certainty to work through.
Okay, enough certainty. It's like sufficient consensus, I suppose, when it comes to negotiating deals. Unions, the dreadful events of Marikana, of course, still so fresh in everybody's memories. Yeah. You talk about, in the new charter, accommodation, for example. There's a huge burden of responsibility being placed on the owners or the operators of assets in South Africa. What does that do to your ability to remain profitable and remain solid employers?
I think there's two sides to the story. It does give us a cost into the business. In fact, we've spent in excess of 40 million rand on living conditions in this last 6 months. But we do feel that legacy issue needs to be addressed, and we're tackling it head on.
So when you spend 40 million rand, what sort of accommodation are you producing now? Because we all know the legacy of the hostels.
Yes.
We all then know the living out allowances and what that did to people's behaviour in terms of staying at a shack next to the mine and sending money home to rural areas, for example, and incurring lots of debt. That was one of the things that ignited Marikana.
Yeah, I agree.
So how are you changing that?
Well, two things. One is by December 16, which is the end of this year, any employee who elects to stay in residence will have single accommodation, in other words, a single room, very similar to varsity type residence.
So a room of reasonable size, 3 by 3 meters or 3 by 4 meters or whatever the case is.
Correct. Yeah. Single occupancy.
Single occupancy, but also in a hostel.
Well, we call it a residence. Yeah. And I think it's more appropriate. And we think we're doing the right thing there. I think I need to add that we also have a housing ownership option, where we effectively provide help for employees to purchase their own home for the first time.
Well, one of the great issues, one of the great legacies of apartheid, of course, in the migrant labour system was the destruction of the family unit. And if miners are still being housed in single accommodation, that doesn't create much space to actually have a proper life while at work.
I agree. I think, and that's why we're moving towards home ownership. We've done extensive land purchases in the last period, and we'll develop very traditional village-type housing options.
I mean, anybody who went into a mining compound 30 years ago, it was a very familiar. There was a face brick house, and there was a sprinkler in the middle of the lawn, and people had a decent life sitting as white employees of mining companies in those days. That sort of setup, is it? Or do we hark back to that sort of?
This is exactly what we're doing. We're providing that option, so it's a proper asset. Not only does it have a fence and grass and a tree, which it's a proper house, 3-bedroom option, 2-bedroom option, even higher. It's an asset that has value and that against which value will grow.
But that will require the employees to participate and to contribute with a subsidy in place as well.
And assistance from the banks. We can leverage purchasing power by using the group buying capacity.
How does that then change the labour dynamic into the future? Because the labour dynamic has always been so fractious.
Yeah, well, it's much more sustainable, of course, you know.
And how are unions responding to this? Because unions
very positively. I think the housing initiative is a key part of our bringing the management teams and the people together, the employees together, such that we've got a more, shall we say, an environment where we can be productive. We think labour stability is the foundation, in fact, of productivity, and that's one of the reasons, in addition to the housing, that we've signed a 3-year wage deal.
I mean, Joseph Mutunja was sitting in that chair the other night, the head of AMCU. He seems to be thinking that mining is, there is a far greater confluence of ideas now than there was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. The events of Marikana have definitely, shall we say, softened attitudes on both sides.
No, it can't happen a moment too soon. Paul Dunne, thanks very much for coming through. Paul
Bruce.
Dunne is Chief Executive of Northam Platinum. It's a tough environment to be a miner, but if you look at it, certainly in the gold sector is getting 19,500 Rand an ounce for gold, which is in pretty much record territory. For platinum, you're getting
about 21,000 Rand per equivalent platinum ounce.
Per equivalent platinum ounce.
So that includes all the byproducts.
Are you then, how close are you to record territory then in terms of production?
We're far from it.
Where was record territory? At about 35, 40,000 Rand an ounce?
I'm not going to quote.
Okay, but I think it was there
considerably higher.
But you're having a far tougher time in Rand terms than your gold compatriots.
Yes, we are. I mean, effectively on a per kilogram, if I can move to kilograms a little bit easier, if you're going to do the comparison to gold. In a nutshell, we're receiving around about 400,000 Rand per kilogram of PGM, which is the 4E elements, and our cost profile is around about the 350,000 Rand per kilogram. In gold mining, the number is approaching 500,000 Rand per kilogram on the revenue line.
For those of us who would be privileged to buy by the ounce, well, the kilogram's a big ask, but I get your point. Certainly much easier calculation that way as well. Thank you for watching the Moneymakers this evening. More money-making issues to deal with next week, but for now, have a very good evening. Good night.